Hi, and welcome to everybody that's joined us on this Wednesday afternoon. My name is Ken Annandale, and today's presentation is about the Intra licensee special. We have a Black Friday special, and we're going to be talking through some of the deals and some of the options that we've got with Black Friday. I have my business partner and my wife, Penny, that's with us. She's going to do a very, very quick introduction of herself, and then we're going to get into the presentation itself. Over to you, Penny.
Hi, good day, everybody. So I am more involved on the financial side of the business and also the delivery side of the business. I also look after the e-learning platform and assist with business development, etc. But really excited to welcome you here today. And yes, this can definitely add massive, massive value to your health and safety vision and save you a ton of money and time and frustration going forward. So looking forward to the presentation. Back to Ken.
Absolutely. Thank you, Penny. Appreciate that. I'll do a little bit of an introduction to us as a company in a short while. Natalie's also standing by. She's available, obviously, after this presentation to answer questions and provide you with information and so forth. I know that some of you probably have received information and material from Natalie, and she will then obviously fill in the bits and pieces that you don't have. So please, everybody that's joined us here, please feel free to just make comments in the chat box, and then she'll get back to you. And then if you happen to be watching this video after this presentation, I'll provide you with her WhatsApp number so you can WhatsApp her as well. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to start the PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to go through this quickly as possible while not forgetting some really important information. Okay, let's start with this. What we're going to say is this, is that we've been in the health and safety training game for a long time. Now, we don't actually train people. What Penny and I decided to do about 10 years ago is that we would equip people to do their own training. And as a result of that, we've built a licensing model, a business model, and that licensing model then allows you to run training programs for your clients, or if you happen to come from a corporate background, we will allow you and license you to run courses in-house. Now, in a nutshell, because it's the Black Friday early bird special, this month and this month only being the last day of the month today, we've got a 15% saving on all licenses that we'll be talking about, all products and services. However, it's going to drop down to 10% in November, as per the normal Black Friday special. But I'll give you a lot more information on that. Okay, I said to you that Penny and I decided to help people get their own businesses up and running. Both of us have been in the small business industry for many, many, many years. I've been in health and safety for about 35 years, and Penny's been in small business even longer than that, although she's younger than me. We're members of Saiosh, the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, and we're corporate members there. We're also members of IOSH, which is the International Occupational Safety and Health Institute in the UK. We were previously SETA, FP&M SETA accredited, and we're members of APID. Our organization has been running for the past 12 years, and we're about to celebrate our 12th anniversary. Okay, let's get straight into it. I don't want to waffle too much. We all know that the Occupational Health and Safety Act is the primary piece of legislation in South Africa, and it talks about the requirements and/or roles and responsibilities of employers and employees and contractors and subcontractors and so forth. We know that the reason that they've got this Occupational Health and Safety Act, or I'll call it the OSA, is that accidents and incidents and occurrences in the workplace are very expensive. We know that, and it affects organizations really badly. We also know that because it's governed by the Department of Employment and Labor, that it is criminal legislation. In other words, they take your fingerprints and you could get a criminal record. Now, that's something that we all want to avoid. And Penny and I and our team often say this. Our job is to keep employers out of court and employees out of hospital. Now, I don't know if you know this, but almost the vast majority of deaths that take place around the world, including South Africa, are as a result of diseases, occupational diseases, not occupational injuries. I don't know if you knew that, but it literally is about 80% of all incidents and occurrences and accidents are occupational disease orientated. And therefore, we see a wonderful opportunity for us as providers to actually go and educate people in the appropriate legislation. Now, just as a bit of an aside, if you look at the bottom there, you'll see a couple of x-rays there. In the middle x-ray has got a whole bunch of screws and nails and bolts and nuts that go into the spine. That happens to be my back. because I broke my back about 2 years ago. And I damaged it really badly, and I had to have a spinal fusion. So I know what this is all about. And I spent a long time in bed, and I spent a long time in a wheelchair, and I walked around with crutches. So I know exactly what this is all about. Now, it wasn't an occupational injury as such, but it was more a sporting injury that took place. But nevertheless, I know the pain and anguish that goes with an injury like that. Okay, then we also know that in South Africa, not only do we have the Occupational Health and Safety Act, we also have regulations, and it addresses the fact that there's about 16 million employees or self-employed people in South Africa. Now, please bear that number in mind, 16 million. 16 million people that need health and safety training. So we can immediately say that there is a business opportunity within the occupational health and safety training world. That means that if you are the right person and you're up to it, you can run a business, and you can run a profitable business providing health and safety training. Okay, so having said that, let's just have a look at what the law says about training. This is Section 8, the employer's duties. It says the employer must establish the hazards and then write the precautionary measures to be taken, and then provide information, instruction, training, and supervision. So if you look at that one, it says precautionary measures. These are safe work procedures and operating procedures and things like that that need to be written. And then, of course, it says that the employer must inform, instruct, and train. So remember the 16 million, and remember those words: hazard, precautionary measures, and information, instruction, and training. If I was to ask you, if we were writing a test now, what's the difference between information, instruction, and training? And is there a difference? And if you know what the difference is, it then makes a great deal of sense to you. Now, once we've done that, the Section 8 stuff, then we move on to Section 13, and these are the people that need to be trained. And as you can read there, it says that as far as reasonably practicable, the employer must cause every employee, the other word that we could use is all, 16 million. Every one of the 16 million employees should be made conversant. What's that mean? It means that they can actually talk about the dangers, hazards, and risks that the employers identified, and the precautionary measures to be taken, these safe operating, safe work procedures. Wow, that's a target market that you could look at in your own area. Doesn't matter where you come from. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in your immediate area. Okay, now we do know that the legislation is quite clear in some instances as to what is required. I'm sure you're familiar with this term, competent person, and it's a term that is defined in the regulations. We have about 22, 23 regulations that are attached to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And here we find the word competent person. Please notice over there, it speaks about competent person, and then it talks about what they should know or have or be experienced in. And then it goes right down to the bottom, and it says, and make sure that this person, this competent person, is familiar with the Act and the applicable regulations made under the Act. That's interesting. So it's almost like if we look at competent person and we look at the regulations where competency is required, and the first 4 are obvious, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. The remaining 5, many people don't have anything to do with some of these regulations. But if you look at first aid as an example, it says the first aider must be competent and familiar with the Act and the applicable regulations made under the Act. So there's training opportunities there. Then ergonomics, we'll talk about that. We see that that is appropriate not to the 16 million employees, but only to the risk assessors. And then we've got the driven machinery regulation, where we talk about forklifts and cranes and hoists and things like that. And then the construction regulation that talks about working at heights. Those are the 4 primary ones that we'll talk to you about, and how to get accreditation for those. All right, so I said that I'm going to touch on the ergonomics regulation. Now, previously we said Section 13 said every employee. Now, the ergonomics regulation says all employees. How many? 16 million. 16 million employees, mandatories or other persons, need to be trained. The employer is responsible to make sure that the training takes place before the person is placed. Then the employer is also responsible to make sure that the employee receives refresher training. And then, of course, we also know about these designers and manufacturers and porters and suppliers. They must train people in the use of the equipment that they sell. Wow. Now, that's interesting. I'm sure at this stage, and I'm not going to get into too much detail now, we do that in our orientation sessions, but I'm sure that you know about SETA and SACWA and NQF and QCTO. But here's an interesting point. First and foremost, it talks about all, and then prior, and then refresher. So you'd imagine that there'd be a unit standard for this, wouldn't you? No, there is no unit standard for ergonomics regulations, training of the 16 million employees, nor is there for the QCTO. However, we do know that the QCTO is working on an ergonomics qualification, which we hope to see maybe this year, maybe next year, who knows, we'll see. Okay, now at this stage, I just need to mention to you that you cannot get accreditation via the SETAs anymore. That's finished. They've changed that. And currently, you can't get accreditation for ergonomics via the QCTO because they don't have a qualification that's been written or a skills program that's available. Okay, more about that later on. So what do we do? Because we see that we've got to do the training, or the employer needs to have his employees trained. Now, what if we don't? Well, interestingly enough, in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, they've got these penalties for offenses. There are fines, and the person can go to jail. The employer and or the employee can actually land up having their fingerprints taken, getting a criminal record, and going to jail or paying this horrendous fine, 50,000 Rand. Now, for a large organization, it's not a problem. But what about you as an individual? Do you have a spare 50,000 Rand? And the answer is probably not. Now, we also know that the Occupational Health and Safety Act will be going through an amendment process. This has been long in coming, and it's been literally years that they've been talking about it. And more recently, Natalie and I were at the Saiosh conference in Cape Town. I chaired the conference, and the Inspector General, a lady by the name of Miss Aggie Bloya, she spoke about the impending Occupational Health and Safety Act Amendment Bill. And she gave us some indication as to when it's to happen. So we're saying, right, okay, now it is going to happen according to what she said. We need to start preparing. Now, what is that going to mean? I just want to point out one specific thing. We're not going to get into the detail now because we actually run courses or information sessions on the Occupational Health and Safety Act Amendment Bill. But look at this. They're pushing the fines up to 5 million Rand. So from a business point of view, if you're going to be providing training to people, one of the reasons we said we're going to keep employers out of court. And we're going to keep employers from not having to pay these fines. And similarly, we need to make sure that employees, we keep them out of hospital. Okay, that's a shocker, isn't it? All right, so that's where our product and our product offering comes into play. Right now, as of today, it's 15% off. As of tomorrow, it goes to 10% off. So we'll just talk about that in a moment. Okay, so what we did was this, is that we realized that there was a need specific to occupational health and safety training. I used to work for an organization called NOSA, the National Occupational Safety Association. I've got a quasi-legal background. I was a law enforcement officer for many years, and I know and understand enough of the legislation to know that there's an opportunity here for you. You may not know much about it as yet, but don't worry, that's what we do. Essentially, follow the leading that we provide to you, and you will get to know and grow into the occupational health and safety field. Okay, so having said that, I'm sure you're familiar as well with these franchise business models. Now, ours is not a franchise model. It's a license model in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. And those elements that you see there, those are the elements that we have in our business plan or our business model. Natalie's got a document available for you to read through and scrutinize and maybe even print out and give to your attorney or your accountant. And it's called the prospectus. So please make sure you get a copy of the prospectus, grab a highlighter, and then draw up a list of questions. Okay, so having said that, let's move on. We then said that we're going to have different licenses so you could literally get in at one level and then build up to platinum. So you could start with, for instance, Fast Track, which is our first aid license. It's a first aid bundle. Then we've got a program for general health and safety, or the starter bundle. And then we've got the basic license, which you can then move up to prime, and then you can move up to platinum. Now, platinum is only for corporates. And when I say only corporates, we have universities and large companies and multi-branch organizations where platinum would be most appropriate. Everything you see in yellow would be applicable to everybody, but those elements that are in white are not applicable to the basic and the starter and the fast track. So we'll give you more detail on that just to make it clearer. So you can see that the one model is a lot more comprehensive than the other, but it is a starting point. Then the next thing that we do, and it's a really important aspect, is that we orientate our licensees. A licensee is a person who owns their own business. They brand it according to their name and logo and look and feel. And these licensees come on our monthly business orientation sessions. And in these sessions, we talk about finance and admin and legal and marketing and sales and changes to legislation and the QCTO and where we're going in future and what we should be aware of. We'll even be talking about some of the recommendations that the QCTO has made to us that we need to get ready for. When I say recommendations, the guidelines that they made to us, we need to get ready for our own accreditation or your own accreditation. And that's all in the orientation. We also do business mentoring. So if you've never been in business before, we'll talk to you. You can set up an appointment with via WhatsApp or Zoom, and you can do that with Natalie, and then we can spend a little bit of time together. I do this regularly where I chat to people about business, setting up a business, right down to things like, what are you going to call your company? And I often joke about it, but I say, wow, a lot of people are unimaginative when it comes to, to naming their companies. And they name companies using names that nobody can pronounce or spell. So what's the good of that, especially now in the digital age? Okay, then talking about the digital age, what we also recognize is that you're a new business. So you may need assistance in terms of marketing. So Natalie has a degree in media from UCT, and she'll spend some time with you. She will audit what you've got, and then she'll give you guidance with regards to setting up the most popular social media platforms and so forth. Now, having that in place means that people can find you. And from a marketing point of view, that's what it's all about. People need to be able to find you. So looking at that, you can see some of those icons, and I'm sure you're familiar with them, and she'll give you some guidance with regards to that. Then we also have an e-learning platform that Penny's going to talk about for a moment. And this is a very, very important element when it comes to orientating the new trainers. But not only that, there's also an opportunity for you learning and then you earning. Over to you, Penny.
Thanks, Ken. Yes, so the e-learning platform at the moment, we've got 15 of the most important, most popular courses in health and safety. And this is an excellent and convenient way and a cost-effective way for you to get legal compliance training tick boxed, especially where you have awkward clients who are scattered across the country. You've got 3 here, 5 there, 10 there, whatever within their company. Online training is a fantastic solution. And it's a very simple process. We do with our licensees give you access to all of the courses so that you can orientate yourself thoroughly. And once you've completed all 15 courses successfully, we give you a very special trademark certificate from Intra called the HASMAN. And this is also an excellent opportunity for you to promote a career path in the different clients, different companies that you're working with, their HASMAN. So the e-learning courses, we're actually adding another 4 coming up shortly now. So it will be up to 19. We do also have a profit share scenario with our licensees. So we actually have absorbed all of the cost in terms of the platform hosting, etc. But we will charge you a wholesale rate if you like, and you can charge your client a retail rate. And our wholesale rate is about $275 per learner per course plus VAT, and your retail rate can be whatever you choose, but it's normally in the region of $650, $750, or $850 per learner per course. So you can make a really, really nice margin. It's really time effective because other than putting together the list of learners and their details and completing the data forms for us to onboard them, we supply you with reports so that you can see who's logged in, how far have they gone with their courses. But other than that, you're not in front of them, for 8 hours a day. They have the opportunity to do the courses in their own time. Some people can do it in 3 hours, but we do open up the courses for 30 days per learner per course. And that's more than enough time for them to complete. They do a self-evaluating multi-choice test at the end of each course, and then they can get a certificate of successful completion at the end of each course. Back to Ken.
So I was talking about ergonomics, and one of the courses that Penny's put on the platform is our ergonomics program, so that if you know nothing about ergonomics, you can actually go on watch or participate in the program, and ultimately receive a certificate of attendance, which means that if it's a matter of actually providing an information session, you know a little bit about it. You're not a subject matter specialist by any means, but remember we said that the employee must be conversant. So you can help that employee become conversant. So Penny, thank you so much for all the work that you've done on the e-learning platform. We really appreciate it. And Penny's got a video that she's recorded specifically on the earning capacity of this entire process. Thanks, Penny. Okay, moving on. The next thing that I want to mention to you is that we, Intra, have legal compliance training material. Now, there's a big difference between legal compliance training material and credit-bearing training material. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Those of you that have heard employers or employees or clients saying, is it accredited? Well, first and foremost, unless the law requires that it be competency-based, and we saw 4 examples previously with those regulations, it does not have to be accredited. That's interesting. Let me just say that again. Most people are under the impression that all training must be accredited. The answer is no, definitely not. And I can assure you that we've checked this out with attorneys and an advocate to make sure that that is absolutely true. If the law says do it, then you do it. And we operate by the rule of law. But if the law does not require it, you don't have to do it. So there is a category of training called legal compliance training. Remember those 3 words I said? We've got 16 million people. And then I said that the law says you must inform, instruct, and train. Accreditation is only available for training, not information sessions and not instruction sessions. So if you were to do an instruction session on one of these topics, you would be within the context of the law, and you would then be making sure that the employer is in the context of the law. Now, in the prospectus we spoke about, you'll receive this form, and in this form, you will see the different programs that we've got. We've got 24 programs. Now, ask yourself as I go through them, could you, would you, should you be running workshops on the Occupational Health and Safety Act or on HIV and AIDS? Is there an opportunity to talk to your clients about asbestos and the asbestos abatement regulation? Maybe the client has a large claims management department where they have to, in terms of the COIDA, the Compensation of Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, where they have to manage the claims. I'm sure, and somebody was asking just now about construction regulations. Now, that's a training program that you can run on the regulations so that people know what the law says. Of course, COVID is still around, believe it or not. And when it comes to your QCTO accreditation, they ask the question if you have the necessary protocols in place. How about maybe you operate with a fleet of trucks and you transport dangerous goods by road? We've got a program for that. Or electricity. Quite simply, you can ask yourself, how many people are exposed to electricity, which once again says 16 million or thereabouts. And what about the environment and sustainability and all the green issues? I'm sure that that is something that you're familiar with, or I believe that employees should be familiar with. And then, of course, ergonomics, very, very important one. Fall and working at heights, really important one. Fire. So if you look at those lists, that list of 12 there, and you can immediately tick off which of those would be applicable, and certainly which of those could you run, or certainly if you have somebody in your organization that can run them, where you can offer them. I'm going to come back to ergonomics. It's one of my favorite topics at the moment, but let's just quickly talk about the others. What about first aid? Now, here's something that I need to say to you very clearly, unequivocally. First aid can be run for anybody, and you can issue a certificate of attendance, but not a certificate of competency. A certificate of competency is required in terms of the General Safety Regulations. And General Safety Regulation 3, as you may or may not know, is where an appointed first aider attends the first aid course. That's a competency-based issue. But if you happen to run, and you're able to run, courses for clubs, athletic clubs, sports clubs, groups, culture groups, churches and mosques and temples and places like that, nobody, in terms of South African legislation, nobody can stop you from running it. What we would say is be familiar with the fact that there is a Consumer Protection Act, and you need to do it within the context of that. But that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity. We'll talk a lot more about that in future in our orientation sessions. Then food safety and food hygiene, health and safety representatives. We've got training material for hazardous chemical substances within the workplace, and HIRA, which is hazard identification and risk assessment, and induction. And this is a really cool program. It has video material that goes with it as well. Investigation. See, these are common programs that are needed within almost every single workplace. How about noise? And we know about the problems that come from noise. Or supervisory management training. Remember we said inform, instruct, train, and supervise. Then number 23 is those who work with hand tools. And finally, a program that we're about to launch. It'll come out in the month of November. It's working in confined spaces. So we're really excited about this. We've got more programs that are under development. We've got a stacking and storage program that will be coming out shortly as well. So you would then be able to run these programs for your clients according to their risk profile. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the inductor as an example. When you get the inductor program, you'll realize that that is the starting point for everybody. And remember we said that the law says the employer must identify the dangers, hazards, and risks. So if you look at that range of training programs, just general dangers, hazards, and risks. Then we look at the structure that's within the organization, which we'll call the health and safety management system. And this is going to be a big emphasis in the amendment bill. And then, of course, health and hygiene and wellness. So I'm sure you would recognize that these are programs that you could run and generate a fair income out of. The inductor program, for instance, is made up of video material. It's a 20-minute video. And like all the material that we provide you, there's a facilitator guide and learner guide and visuals and support material. And there's certain rights, reproduction rights and things of that nature. And then, of course, we can guarantee that it is plagiarization free. Very, very important. And the last point, of course, is that it is adaptable. It's customizable. So you can put in your own dangers, hazards, and risks. Once again, I want to go back to Section 8. It says identify the hazards and then develop the precautionary measures. So those precautionary measures should come into every single one of the programs that you run. Okay, more about that later. Once you've done that, you can issue a certificate of attendance. And we give you a Word for Windows merged document and database that you can generate certificates for your own learners or your clients' learners. And we'll explain how that entire process works. This is a certificate of attendance or participation or compliance, but not competency. Competency, once again, goes back to that issue around the regulations, is where the law says the person must be competent. Okay, we'll show you exactly how to get a competency certificate. Now, having said that, there's 24 programs with a couple more to come. Then we have a look at this credit-bearing training material. And that's where SAQA, the South African Qualification Authority, comes into the picture. Under SAQA, they talk about a credit-bearing training program. So each one of these that we've got there, and there's over 50 of them, 50 of them, these are unit standard aligned training courses that you'll be receiving. And you'll see that credits are awarded to them. And that means if you are accredited with the QCTO, you would then be able to issue a certificate at the end of the journey. And I say the end of the journey, so it is a bit of a journey. And the person would then have the credits for their own records, that's the employees, as well as the employer would be able to claim the rebates and things of that nature. Okay. Now, there's been a whole discussion, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, around what happened to the unit standards. Where are they now? Are they still valid? Are they not valid? And I can just quickly say to you that there's a lot of information, useful information on the SAQA website. But they made a decision to scrap all the unit standards. Then there was a lot of pushback in the marketplace that people said, no, we just can't do this. So the QCTO and SAQA then stepped backwards and went, we're sorry. But one of the things that they did not do is they did not allow any new SETA accreditation. They said it has to go through QCTO. So QCTO is now going to be the accreditation body in future when, and I make when, we don't know, this year, next year, the year thereafter, when they've written their codes. So the codes replace the unit standards. So we 11,000 unit standards, and currently we only have a couple of codes, of which almost none apply to occupational health and safety. So if you grab your phone, take a photograph of that URL at the top there. Once you've got that URL, or you can ask Natalie for it, you can WhatsApp her later on, and she'll send it to you. Then you can go and do your own research to see whether the courses that you would like to run have been unit standard aligned and the extensions have been lifted. And sorry, no, the extensions, where they stopped them. I'm trying to think of the word. Check it out. Check it out. Very, very useful. And there's a lot of useful information on the SACWA website. Now, let's talk about the QCTO training material. So we said there's going to be this transition. And you may or may not know that the QCTO has these 3 different levels. I'm going to suggest that we start at the bottom, which is a qualification. That's a qualification. So if you look at the name QCTO, it's the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. That would be a qualification. Many, many, many credits. The courses are quite long and so forth. Qualifications are, if you remember the old trades, anybody that would qualify as a tradesman, such as carpenters and hairdressers and people like that, that's a qualification. Our training world is not in that world. We happen to fall into the skills program world, these short courses, 1, 2, and 3-day courses. But in between, you'll also find that there's a thing called part qualifications. So qualifications are really important in certain instances, but the vast majority of the programs that we've been talking about are skills programs. And these are the programs that we currently have. Starting with first aid, we have skills programs for basic first aid, intermediate first aid, and advanced first aid. And if you look in the first column or the second column over there, you'll see there's credits and there's levels. And the last column is notional hours, credits, levels, and notional hours. So we have that training material. In fact, let me just quickly say this. If nothing else other than this discussion today, you can buy any of these programs individually. You don't have to be part of the license arrangement. Then you'll see that it says 12 or so HWCTA or QCTO skills programs. Penny and I have had the opportunity of serving on a working group, Penny more so than me, where they've been discussing the development of these 12 programs. And this week or last week, we received notification that there's more to come, which is great. That's good news. But when? We don't know. Okay. Then the qualifications, if you look down below there, you'll see project management, health and safety officer, inspector, and practitioner. Have a look at the credits. Have a look at the notional hours. The notional hours are the ones in the end. So if you look at that credits, that could literally be 5 days, 4 days, 4 days, 5 days. It's not that. Notional hours determine how long these courses are. So project management or a health and safety officer, not a rep, health and safety officer, 1,200 notional hours. Understand what notional hours are. It's not 1,200 hours in the classroom, but it's 1,200 hours allocated to the training of that health and safety officer. Sure. It's really quite crazy if you look at it. 2,780, 2,560. But don't freak out. This is not a discussion of these things. We will teach you this. We'll show you and discuss it that you have a better understanding. This is what is available. So if you want to become a first aid training provider, we've got a training program that we touched on called the Fast Track. So we can get first aid trainers up and running as quickly as possible. Okay, there's another website that you need to go and have a look at and see the skills programs and the qualifications. Take a photograph of that one. If you just go onto www.qcto.org.za and look for the title skills programs, you can see what is available at the moment. And sadly, the health and safety world has been kind of left out. So what do we do? So what Penny and I did is that we said, we have to find and come up with a solution. So what I started doing is I started speaking to various attorneys and to 2 advocates so we can get some guidance. And what the guidance says is this: do what the law says you do. Remember, it's rule of law. So we'll be talking a lot about legal compliance training. However, we also know that in the distant future, at some other stage, we're going to have to, from a functional point of view, from a marketing point of view, we're going to have to make sure that accreditation is available. So Penny, would you like to quickly talk about the Accredikit and then your workshops?
Sure, thanks, Ken. So in January of this year, we embarked on a journey to create a Google Drive support system and to create workshops so that our licensees could learn every single aspect of being able to do their own accreditation. And this has huge cost savings for the licensees. It's also it saves them a lot of time. It puts them in the controlling seat, and they avoid issues whereby they're dealing with consultants and possibly documents didn't go forward the way they were supposed to go forward, and 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, things are still like in the pipeline. So we've had fantastic success. I must say that licensees are getting through the accreditation process successfully. We have not had anybody declined as yet. And also the powers that be from QCTO and Department of Employment and Labour, they've been very responsive. We even have a couple of our licensees who are actually QCTO verifiers, and they've been also very helpful. So we literally give you every single step that you need to know in order to do your own accreditation. It's not difficult. It's just time consuming because you've got to put all your documents together, etc. But we help you with the templates for your business plan, for the templates for your QMS, etc., etc. So in actual fact, everything is laid out for you. Currently, we are working with 2-hour workshops, so we really consolidate everything together tightly. We record these workshops so you can listen to them again and again. We are available to answer questions as you go through the process. And the next one is coming up on the 14th of November. And the last one for the year will be on the 5th of December. There's no limit to however many of these you'd like to attend. I've got a few that attend every single one because they always say they learn something different each time, and it just makes it easier for them. And right now, I think, as Ken was alluding to, we do have confirmation that maybe it's 12 that are coming through sooner rather than later in terms of the new OHS skills programs. And then early next year, we'll probably see another 10 coming through. They're just out for comment now only this week. So there is going to be, over the next year or two, a tremendous amount of OHS skills programs available for you to be accredited against. And I think it's really important to have that badge behind you. They do limit you to 6. So we will be providing a bundle for early in the new year for those that want to actually get going with the first 6. And if you are interested in first aid and that's your speciality, of course, you can get going right now, this second, because all the first aid skills programs are in place. Thanks, and back to Ken.
Great, Penny, thank you so much. Right. Hopefully this is making sense to everybody that's watching here today. And I just see that we've got a couple of new people that have joined us. If you wouldn't mind just going down to the chat box at the bottom and just dropping your name in there so that Natalie can make contact with you afterwards. But thank you, Penny, for talking about the QCTO thing. I know she's incredibly diligent and her research is really impeccable. She also delivers the information in a very usable manner. Then, of course, we don't just leave you there. We don't just say, well, that's it. We also have various webinars and training sessions and support that I mentioned. We've got a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is very, very useful. There's a private section only for licensees. And then, of course, as we record the interviews by subject matter specialists, you can take that, the link, and you can share it with your team as well. Okay, so now, you probably realize that health and safety is universal, and certainly in South Africa, it's one thing under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, but health and safety is applicable for the entire African continent. And we have licensees that stretch literally from Dubai to Durbanville, and you can take advantage of that. We'll be talking more and more and more about the opportunities of networking with these people. So remember I mentioned to you that there were 5 licenses or packages: Platinum, Prime, Basic Starter, and Fast Track. Fast Track is that first aid one we were talking about. Platinum, I said to you, is probably not applicable. Those that are in white are not, you don't get it, the basic and starter, but everything that's in orange applies to everybody. Okay, so having said that, let's quickly go through them. Firstly, with the Fast Track, this is the first aid one. And Penny mentioned that we have the material, we can help you get your accreditation, and so forth. Now, there are a couple of requirements there, but let me just quickly show you what we will provide you. If you decide that you want to become a first aid training provider, you'll be able to present the basic, intermediate, and advanced emergency first aid training programs if you qualify in every instance. You go, what do you mean by if I qualify? Well, for the advanced program, the presenter has to be registered with the Health Professional Council of South Africa. So that's something that you may or may not want to do, but you'll be able to attend the workshop, the DIY workshop. You'll get all the training material, the basic, intermediate, and advanced. You also get the right to co-brand and use the Intra logo. You get the right to modify and customize the training material. You get the right to reproduce copies of the learner materials. You do not get the right to reproduce the facilitator material. That's only for the platinum license. And then, importantly, at this stage, there's no monthly license or membership fee. Important to note, that's for the first aider. Then, of course, we've got the starter pack. And the starter pack means that this is ideal if you want to do broader occupational health and safety training. And it's a plan to go from starter to basic. Right in the beginning, you'll get any 6 of those 24 programs. You can select them. You get the rights to reproduce it. You get the rights to reproduce the learner material, but not the trainer material. Important that I mention that. That's a copyright issue. You'll also have access to any of those e-learning programs, or 6 of the e-learning programs. As Penny mentioned, you have the right to resell the e-learning. You have the right to issue certificates of attendance. At this stage, for starter, there's no monthly license fee. And you have the option of going from starter to basic. So you can see it's a developmental process. And in basic, this is ideal if you want to build towards prime. And in a moment, you'll see what you're going to get in prime. But for basic, you'll get all 24 original training materials and any new ones that come out. You don't have to pay extra for that. That's what the license fee is all about. Then you'll have any 2 of your people attend the e-learning programs. There's 15 of them, so that we encourage our licensees to get the hazmat certificate. Very important. You and your team will be able to attend the orientation sessions. And then, of course, when it comes to upgrading from starter to basic and basic to prime, what we'll do is we'll discount the amount that you've already paid. So you're kind of like paying it off. Then we've got prime. That includes basic. Now, at this stage, you'll receive all the SACWA material and all the QCTO material that we spoke about as well. You'll also receive any new or updated training material. You attend the workshops for free. There is a monthly license fee over here, as is there. On basic, there's a license fee, and on prime, there's a license fee, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then access to all our downloadable articles and resources. I write and I publish, and you can get that information as and when it comes out, which is really cool. And then, of course, if you happen to be a prime or a platinum, you will get the online marketing presence setup that I spoke to you about that Natalie provides. Now, let's talk about platinum. These are large organizations and multi-branch organizations. And we have universities, we have large corporate organizations, we have large retail organizations that use our training material. Now, there's a slight difference over here because they get the right to reproduce all the facilitator material. And of course, they get the right to use the intellectual property for their own e-learning LMS. And we also allow up to 5 people to attend the e-learning orientation sessions, the workshops, so that they're familiarized with the content. And of course, there's a monthly license fee. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to ask Penny to quickly talk through the actual costings here. And you'll see that there's 3 columns. There's the normal price, the before the special. Then there's the October price, which ends today. And then there's the November price. Over to you, Penny.
Thanks, Ken. So I'm just going to remind everybody that tomorrow is still October. Ken, there is one more day in October, the 31st. So they have Thursday. One more day. I was sending out reminders to people today, please make sure that you confirm before tomorrow. So yes, so happy to offer such a nice, big, juicy discount. Please take advantage. We're offering it to you. Please take advantage. As you can see, for the fast track, the October 15% discount brings it down to under 10,000 Rand. November, it will be at 9,800. Then the next one is the starter. Normally it's 17,825. It comes down to 15,151. So a lovely saving there. And in November, it will be 16,042.50. And I think those 2, fast track or starter, are great ways to get going. If you're just starting out, I think it's a very safe way for you to actually explore and just see the quality of what we offer. The basic is definitely a significant delivery, and you're involved in so many more of the activities that we offer as Intra, and many of the benefits that Ken has not had time to speak about here, including our exclusive YouTube channel. And we also have, 20 plus ebooks on business that you have access to, etc., and partner stores that we do discounts with, etc. So the basic comes in at about just under 30,000 with the discount, which is a great saving. And that's been very popular for people that are just also putting their foot in the water and very concerned about legal compliance training. And that really is our mission. And then the Prime includes the QCTO and the do-it-yourself accreditation support. So very important if you know that that's going to be very important for you. And we do believe that that's a very important badge to have as you go forward. And that's going to be the future. So definitely you don't want to hold yourself back in that regard at all. And why should you? If you're doing it yourself, there's no cost involved. You just put everything together according to a prescribed script, if you like. But you can see the Prime comes in at under 50 with the discount. So really a very, very nice discount. The Platinum, this is fantastic for companies that are looking to expand their in-house training capabilities. And we often have licensees, in fact, that recommend companies as well that they are dealing with and encourage them to actually invest so that they have access to all of the training going forward. So Platinum brings it just under 100,000, as you can see. And your monthly membership or subscription, if you like, is 1,725 per month. And that is for your basic Prime and Platinum. And really, if you consider all the updates, even now, right now, we just got a letter today from SETA regarding the QCTO first aid skills programs, that there will be some adjustments made. Ken was actually one of the training providers or companies that pointed out many of the errors in the QCTO curriculum, and this was backed up by the HPCSA themselves. And therefore, the QCTO has had to respond and review those curriculums. It would be quite a headache if you had to actually incorporate all those updates yourself. But it's all done for you. You just collect it in your Google Drive and you can go forward. So this is a massive, massive advantage as we go forward with the new QCTO training materials. They become available to you. The new Intra Originals become available to you. The new Intra Toolbox Talks next year become available to you, etc., etc. So much and so much more. And back to Ken.
Penny, thank you so much. And I just want to quickly point out to you, if you looked at that list of 24 and you go, oh, I would like the ergonomics program, you can just inquire. Natalie will provide you with a quotation, or you can go online and you can purchase it online with the credit card. No problem. It's very simple. We'll deliver it via Google Drive, and you can then go through something of an orientation and start the customization of the program. So once again, you could start small, baby steps, and then grow your training business, your training department.
Ken, I think you suddenly muted.
Okay, thanks, Penny. So I was just saying that we're aware that it's a business opportunity. And as a business opportunity, any and all expenses incurred in setting up a business are tax deductible. And I think that's an important point. People tend to think, oh, I'm going to lay this money out. But yeah, you're also going to get it back from the tax man. And if you know anything about taxation and you know anything about finance and accounting, you'll know that the opportunity is there for you to deduct this expense from your setup costs. So important to know and say. All right, from there onwards, let's just move straight in. I want to ask the question, if you're interested, and are you interested, would you please respond so that we can give you the October 15% saving, as Penny said, today and tomorrow, and you can nail it down. So to qualify for that, it literally is a matter of decide which license you would like to have, and we'll provide you with more information on that. Then obviously, Penny and the accountant needs to know, has it been paid for? And that's important by the 1st of November. And if you do that, you'll get the 15% special. However, if you find, oh, hang on, I need a little bit of a breather so I can get my money together, you can put a deposit down and you can pay the balance in November. Then, of course, we know that in November, 1st of November, the discount is going to go, the savings is going to go from 15% to 10%. And then at that stage, we'll give you another month to complete that deal. That number over there, 082 499 6911, 082 499 6911, take a photograph of that. That is Natalie's number. If you wouldn't mind other than actually putting your details in the chat box below, you can WhatsApp her if you aren't in contact with her already, or she with you, and you can ask her for anything such as the prospectus or a link to this video if you want to show this video to your partner or your clients or whoever you're going to be talking to. She is your next point of contact. So, Penny, I just want to quickly ask you, is there anything that you'd like to add at this stage?
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, just please take advantage of these specials and please speak to us and chat to us. I know that each of your vision, etc., as to what you want to do with your business is completely unique. And we love to chat to you. And Ken and I spend a lot of time just chatting to licensees and getting an idea of where you're going, maybe just give you some guidance. But genuinely, you are going to save a lot of time and money and frustration by having the support mechanism of Intra behind you as you go forward in the health and safety area. And if you're already very established and very successful as a training provider in health and safety, this is going to add value to what you are offering your clients going forward. So super excited about the current scenario and the future going forward. And there's a massive, massive market. I was actually just exposed to the Lloyd report, which is an international report. And they were saying something like 300 million deaths are attributed to health and safety, are attributed to workplace deaths globally. And these are only the reported deaths. So, I mean, it really is a genocide if you think of it that way, that we're experiencing in the workplace. And they actually say in the report again and again and again the importance of good, clear health and safety training. And here, the importance here is, being able to make sure that the person understands, that when that switch is on, you can't put your hand there. It's the quality of the health and safety training is so important. It's not just about tick boxing. It's really about communicating effectively. And what I love about Ken's original training materials, the quality of the PowerPoints, etc., the quality of the content, you can really make sure that the people walk out of the training clearly understanding the processes and the subjects. So let's keep people safe. That's really our mission at the end of the day. And we really want you to make money. And there's a huge opportunity for you to make money through this as well. And back to Ken.
Penny, thank you so much. I started off by saying that Penny and I have been in business for a long time, and we have. I mentioned that I worked for NOSA and I left NOSA and I started up one of the first training companies, if not the very first training company in South Africa dealing with health and safety. And it was a while ago. And those of you that are familiar with legislation will remember that there was the old Factories Act that was replaced by the Machinery and Occupational Safety Act that was then replaced by the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And now we see the changes where they are talking about the amendment bill. Every single one of those steps is an opportunity for you. Our job is to make sure that you understand what's going on there. You may not be familiar with legislation. You might not even be familiar with small business. You might be the kind of person that going, this is my dream, this is my aspiration. I don't know how to do it. But what we'll essentially do is we'll provide the stepping stones for you to get there. You will be associated with a brand that people know and recognize literally from Cape Town to Cairo, and a brand that we feel incredibly proud of. I mentioned that we're members of Saiosh, the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. I serve on a committee called a Saiosh committee called SHASTAC, which is the Saiosh Health and Safety Training Advisory Committee. We have had involvement with Saiosh for many years. And why do I say that? Because I'm going to suggest that you, as a training provider, register with Saiosh and you become a corporate member as well. There's all kinds of benefits there, such as the verification processes of the training programs. Then, of course, if you wish to go through the process of getting accreditation, you heard that we can help you with that. We're not going to do it for you. And let me just quickly make that abundantly clear. We don't do it for you. If you want somebody to do it for you, we have people that can do it for you, but that's not included in the cost. Otherwise, the cost goes up too high. But that's an important one. Department of Employment and Labor recognition and or approval, they speak of that. We will guide you through that process and help you with the forms and the documentation so that you can get your own DOL or DEL, as it's now known, number. There's a chief inspector's number that comes with it. Now, when it comes to setting up your business and understanding how to make it profitable that Penny was talking about, there's obviously things like making sure that you're not just chasing turnover, but you're chasing profits. so that you're generating an income for yourself and your family and your staff, that you understand what it is that you have, this business that you're going to create, or this department that you're going to create. What is it? What can you do with it? How long are you going to keep it? What are you going to do with it when you finally get to my age and you want to retire? I see, Samson, you also have a slight white Mchebe there. So we'll be talking to you about those aspects. We're not going to run your business for you. We're not going to brand it for you, but you can co-brand, and you can be part of the Penny calls it a tribe, or the intra-family, or the intra-group, where you would then have a support system around you. I have so much more that I would be sharing with you at the orientation sessions, the monthly orientation, and this is the way it works. Got a couple of minutes, and I'll just quickly say, you identify which of those licenses you like, you do the payments, and Natalie will send you a quote, you then, or an invoice, you will then make the payment. The moment that has happened, Penny will then do an upload of the relevant training material to you from Google Drive. And then she has a session with you called the onboarding session. And in that onboarding session, she will talk to you about what you've got, what you've actually got. That session should be attended not only by you, but also your admin person, your sales and marketing person, your business partner, or maybe, as in our instance, it's a family business, so your family. Then they have an understanding of what you're going to be doing. Now, at this stage, you're going to be asking which are the easy programs to run, easy to sell, easy to run, no accreditation required, just a legal compliance training program, and we'll take you through that process and make certain recommendations. Then it's a matter of stepping out and saying, right now, I'll be found online if Natalie helps you, or alternatively, you do that yourself. You have somebody do that for you, and you're in the marketplace. It's as simple as that. It's not all that difficult. It's not all that convoluted. Now, when it comes to things like setting yourself up in business, we'll be talking to you about things like names and websites and how you can identify with the health and safety training world in such a way that people will easy to find you, easy to spell the name of your company and things of that nature. We'll be talking to you about certification, what types of certificates you can issue and when you can issue the certificates, and we'll provide you with those. So there's a lot of useful information. Now, at that stage, you can then start setting targets. You can say, right, I want to do X amount of business every single month. I'll be talking to you a lot about setting up a database, whether you have or haven't got a database, how to get a database so that you can reach out into the marketplace, and that you would be found in the marketplace, but also you'd be reaching out and telling the people, I'm available to come and do the training for you. You then go in and you do a HIRA or a needs analysis within the organization so that you're addressing the specific dangers, hazards, and risks. And you can see there's a lot of information that we will share with you very happily. It's not all that difficult, but it is get your head around it. So the next thing that I'm going to suggest you do is get a hold of us. You can send us a message in the chat box saying, I'm interested in this, that, or the next thing. Or alternatively, you can get hold of Natalie and tell her, please send me a quotation. And then it's a matter of saying, right, set a date to get going. Now, I'm going to end off by just saying this. If you're keen on getting QCTO accreditation for instance, the fast track and the first aid, get in now. Penny can maybe just quickly explain to you what's happening at the QCTO at the moment with the rush. Penny, are you still there? Do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yes, sure. So I think as we understood from the SETAs, and 99% of our licensees all got their accreditation with the SETAs. There were these long delays and log jams, etc. With QCTO, we actually have a much more streamlined approach. Their online system is working very well. And sometimes we get very surprised actually as to how quick the turnaround is. So the quickest can be about 4 months, 4.5 months, something like that. The average tends to be about 6, 7, 8 months, depending on how quick you are across the different phases of the process. So if you're looking at next year, by March, you want to have your accreditation in place, you need to start now. That's very, very important. You definitely need to get your documents organized and do phase 1 and phase 2, which is the desktop evaluation part of the accreditation process. Get that done and get that behind you, and then setting up and waiting for the site visit. Even after the site visit, there's still going to be a delay as they recommend you through to the QCTO committee for that final letter of accreditation. So it is a process and there's different phases within that process, but it's 100% doable. And if first aid is your cup of tea and that's your focus, Even if you just want to do basic first aid, just the first level, then definitely get started on that now. As soon as the new skills programs are published, I know we have many licensees that want to be accredited for legal liability, HIRA, InvestTrack, all of those typical types of courses.
Penny, can I
But
just
we're
quickly jump
not
in here?
available yet. They're not available
Yeah, can I
yet.
jump in here? Even though they're not available, you can do it in terms of the law. The Constitution of South Africa allows you to do legal compliance training.
The
Simple as that.
training, yes,
So,
yes. But I'm just saying, in terms of applying for the accreditation, we just have to wait until it's published.
correct, absolutely correct. And I hope everybody got that message. But while waiting, you can be generating income.
Exactly.
And it really isn't a difficult process to get up and running. We're going to talk to you about starting with the simple programs, the easy programs, and things like that. I've got a question here. Somebody says, can we take questions and answers? The answer is yes. I see we're already 2 minutes over the hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording, and then we're going to open the microphones, and you can ask as many questions as you want. But I do want to say this: if you would like a one-on-one appointment with Penny and myself via Zoom or WhatsApp, just talk to Natalie. She'll set it up. She's got a system that she sets it up, and we'll gladly spend time with you and discuss it. May I suggest that you get a copy of the prospectus, print it, and then go through to the highlighter, sit with your accountant or lawyer friend, ask them their opinions, read it to them, send it to them, ask them, where's the catch? And what should I be doing? Because it's agreements and arrangements and things like that. Please understand that it's business. So we have those in place, and then you feel a lot more comfortable as to what you're doing. So with that, I want to say to everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Natalie, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, not from my side. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. So everybody's got Natalie's number. It's in the chat box. You can actually WhatsApp her this afternoon, and then she'll get back to you. She's super efficient. She's a millennial, and she is highly productive. We appreciate that. Fantastic. Great. All right, I'm going to stop the recording, and those of you that have watched the recording, watch it over and over, and feel free to share the link with colleagues and friends and partners and so forth. And with that, let's stop the recording. Don't go away.